What's up, everybody? We're back with another part, another chapter, another episode, whatever you want to call it. Tomato, potato, same thing, you know. Wait, are tomatoes and potatoes the same thing? No, never mind. Ignore me. We're not here for me. We're here for this. This is a book, not just any book. The book of all books. It's called How Not to Die. What an amazing title. How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. He is an amazing doctor and a prolific writer, and it's very entertaining and educational, so I highly suggest you give it a read. Look at all these sticky notes. This is the day! Chapter 15, baby! We made it! Chapter 15! Halfway through the book. This is like a 500-page book, but like the last 100 pages, you know, they're not like actual pages. They're just like notes. Like, you know, like credited stuff. Like, it's just basically like notes. Like sources. Cite your work type of page. So it's only like realistically a 400-page book. So honestly, not a bad read. And it's literally fun to read. Like, this doctor, he's prolific with how he writes. Like, I can't tell you a chapter where I didn't at least smile a little bit. Just the way he explains things is funny. Like, he tries his best to captivate your attention and really just teach you in the best way possible without, this is boring. Yeah, he gets a little repetitive sometimes, repeating, oh, the best diet is a plant-based diet. The best diet is a plant-based diet every fucking chapter. But he does so in a way that makes fun of himself. So that's just my synopsis of the book so far. We're halfway in, literally, chapter 15, page 239. We're jumping right into it. It is How Not to Die from Iatrogenic. That's not how you pronounce it. I'm sorry for butchering that. It's pronounced
Iatrogenic.
That word. Iatrogenic. And I already know, just by the chapter's freaking title, that this chapter is going to be such a freaking pain to try and pronounce. Iatrogenic? What does that mean? It means how not to die from doctors. Okay? So the definition of iatrogenic literally means relating to illness caused by medical examination or treatment. What? Medical examination or treatment can actually cause illness? This is going to be a very powerful chapter. And if we really peel back the definition of iatrogenic, we can go all the way to its etymology, which comes from a superlative comparative to iatrogenic, meaning medicine of a disease. So literally the etymology comes from itro and genic. Genic meaning produced or generated by something, producing or generating something suitable to be produced or reproduce. And itro is English prefix for doctor and physician. So this disease is literally produced by a doctor or physician. That's what the word means etymology-wise and literally iatrogenic. Okay, so that's enough of me. We're just going to jump right into it. We're reading straight from the book, hardcover. Gotta love hardcovers. Not much of an electric guy. I've read one book online. Didn't really get into it. Enough of me. Enough. You're not here for this. You're here for this. Chapter 15, page 239. How Not to Die from Iatrogenic Causes, or How Not to Die from Doctors. Dun dun dun! As the saying goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's quaint. But a pound isn't all that heavy. Why change your diet and lifestyle when you can just let modern medicine do its job of fixing you back up? Unfortunately, modern medicine isn't nearly as effective as most people think. Doctors excel at treating acute conditions, such as mending broken bones and curing infections. But for chronic diseases, which are leading causes of death and disability, conventional medicine doesn't have much to offer, and, in fact, can sometimes do more harm than good. For example, side effects from medications given in hospitals kill an estimated 106,000 Americans every year. That statistic alone effectively makes medical care the sixth leading cause of death in the United States. And this number reflects only the number of deaths from taking the drugs as prescribed. An additional 7,000 people die every year from receiving the wrong medication by mistake. And 20,000 others die from other hospital errors. Hospitals are dangerous places. And that's not even counting the estimated 99,000 deaths each year due to hospital-acquired infections. Holy shit! 99,000 people a year die from infections acquired when they were in the hospital? What is that shit? Fuck that shit. I ain't going to the hospital. I don't want to be part of the 99,000 people a year that die just because they walked into a hospital. The fuck? Alright, anyway, I'm toning it down a notch. Sorry, guys. But, can deaths from infections be blamed on doctors? That's what I like to know. They can, if doctors won't even wash their hands. We've known since the 1840s that hand washing is the best way to prevent hospital-acquired infections. Keyword, hospital-acquired. Because we discussed later in the same book that hand sanitizer is shown to kill more bacteria than hand soap. So, sanitizing your hands is better if you don't have visual gook and dirt on your hands. Anyway, jumping right back into it. So, we've known since the 1840s that hand washing is the best way to prevent hospital-acquired infections, yet compliance among healthcare workers rarely exceeds 50%. And doctors are the worst offenders. One study found that even in a medical intensive care unit, slapping up a contact precautions in quotation marks. Every time there's quotation marks, I'll go like, just so you guys know. Contact precaution sign signaling particularly high risk of infection leads less than a quarter of doctors to properly wash their hands or use a hand sanitizer when treating patients. That's right. Not even one doctor out of 4 washed his or her hands before laying them on the ill. Many physicians are concerned that should it become widely known how many people doctors inadvertently kill every year, it could undermine public trust. But if doctors can't even be bothered to wash their hands, how much trust do we deserve? This unfortunate and gross situation means that you could go in for a simple operation and come out with a life-threatening infection. If you come out at all, every year 12,000 Americans die from complications due to surgeries that weren't even necessary in the first place. For those keeping score, that's more than 200,000 people dead from so-called iatrogenic causes. From the ancient Greek iatros, meaning doctor. Oh, he's going to go over it for it right now. That's awesome. I should have skipped that part in the beginning. And that figure is based only on the data on hospitalized patients. In outpatient settings, for instance, at your doctor's office, prescription drug side effects alone may result in 199,000 additional deaths. What the 199,000 additional deaths just for outpatients. That's disgusting. That's making me sick, actually. The Institute of Medicine estimates that medical errors may kill even more Americans, up to 98,000, bringing the total annual death counter closer to 300,000. That's more than the entire population of cities like Newark, Newark, Buffalo, or Orlando. Even using more conservative estimates of death due to medical errors, healthcare comes in as the real third leading cause of death in America. How did the medical community respond to such damning conclusions? Deafening silence in both word and deed. The first such report, which appeared in 1978, suggested that about 120,000 deaths occurring in hospitals could be prevented. 16 years later, another scathing reminder was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, suggesting that iatrogenic death toll may be the equivalent of 3 jumbo jet crashes every 2 days. In the years between the two reports, as many as nearly 2 million Americans may have died due to medical errors, yet the medical community refused to comment on this tragedy and made no substantial effort to reduce the number of deaths. Another estimated 600,000 deaths later, the prestigious Institute of Medicine released its own landmark report on the catastrophic consequences of medical error, but again, little was done as a result. Eventually, a few changes were implemented. For instance, interns and residents could no longer be made to work for more than 80 hours a week, at least on paper. And shifts couldn't be more than 30 consecutive hours long. That may not sound like a big step, but when I started my internship after graduating from medical school, we worked 36-hour shifts every 3 days, combined with our other days of work. That added up to a 117-hour work week. God damn. God fucking damn. I'm complaining for my 20-hour work week, 30-hour work week. I have no right to complain. When interns and residents are forced to pull all-nighters, studies suggest they may make 36% more serious medical errors, 5 times more diagnostic errors, and have twice as many attentional failures, such as nodding off during surgery. The patient is supposed to be asleep during surgery, not the surgeon. It's no surprise then that overworked doctors may cause 300% more fatigue-related medical errors that lead to patient death. If every single day airlines crashed and killed hundreds of people, we would expect the Federal Aviation Administration to step in and do something. Why doesn't anyone confront the medical profession? Instead of just releasing reports, entities like the Institute of Medicine could have demanded that doctors and hospitals adopt at least a minimum set of preventative practices, such as barcoding drugs to avoid mix-ups. You know, something they do even on a package of Twinkies at the grocery store. Only people on medications are killed by medication errors or the drugs' side effects. Though, you have to actually be in the hospital to be killed by a hospital error or get an infection there. The good news is that most visits to doctors are for diseases that can be prevented with a healthy diet and lifestyle. The best way to avoid the adverse effects of medical tests and treatments is not to avoid doctors, but to avoid getting sick in the first place. Amen to that, brother. Radiation. There are risks associated not only with medical treatment, but also sometimes with diagnosis. A paper entitled Estimated Risks of Radiation-Induced Fatal Cancer from Pediatric CT out of Columbia University in 2001 reignited long-standing concerns about the risks associated with medical diagnosed radiation exposure. CT, or CAT scans, CAT scans, use multiple X-rays from different angles to create cross-sectional images, exposing the body to hundreds of times more radiation than a simple X-ray. Based on the excess cancer risk of Hiroshima survivors exposed to a similar dose of radiation, it was estimated that out of all children who undergo abdominal or head CT scans, every year 500 might ultimately die from cancer attributed to the CT radiation. What the fuck? In response to this revelation, the editor-in-chief of a leading radiology journal conceded, "We radiologists may be as guilty as others when it comes to not watching out for children. The risk of developing cancer after a single CT scan may be as high as 1 in 150 for a baby girl. In general, the diagnostic medical radiation dealt out in 1 year is estimated to cause 2,800 breast cancers among American women, as well as 25,000 in other cancers." In other words, doctors may be causing tens of thousands of cancers every year. Patients undergoing these scans are rarely informed of these risks. For example, did you know that getting a chest CT scan is estimated to inflict the same cancer risk as smoking 700 cigarettes? Excuse me. 1 in every 270 middle-aged women may develop cancer due to a single angiogram. angiogram. Yes, I will be annotating that word. CT scans and X-rays can be life-saving, but good evidence suggests that 1/5 to 1/2 of all CT scans aren't necessary at all, and could be replaced with a safer type of imaging or simply not performed at all. Many people express concern about the radiation exposure from the full-body scanners at airports using backscatter X-rays, but those machines have since been phased out. The airplane itself, however, is a different story. Because you're exposed to more cosmic rays from outer space at higher altitudes, just one round trip cross-country flight may subject you to about the same level of radiation as a chest X-ray. Given my past speaking schedule, I should be glowing in the dark by now. That's funny. Is there anything you can do to mediate the radiation risk? As with so many other health questions, the answer is that you can eat healthfully. That's a surprise. What a shocker. Didn't see that one coming. In an investigation funded by the National Cancer Institute, researchers studied that diets and chromosomes integrity of airline pilots who get zapped with radiation daily to see which foods might be protective. They found that pilots who consumed the most dietary antioxidants suffered the least amount of DNA damage to their bodies. Note the word dietary. Antioxidant supplements such as vitamin C and E didn't seem to help. Pilots who consumed the most vitamin C through fruits and vegetables, though, appeared to be protected. Taking antioxidant supplements may be more than just a waste of money. People given 500 milligrams of vitamin C a day were found to end up with more oxidative DNA damage. I fucking quit. This shit's crazy. Remember that natural antioxidants in food work synergistically. It's the combination of many different compounds working together that tends to protect you, not high doses of single antioxidants found in supplements. Indeed, those pilots eating mix of phytonutrients concentrated in a variety of such plant foods as citrus, nuts, seeds, pumpkins, and peppers had the lowest levels of DNA damage in response to the radiation they were bombarded with every day from the galaxy. So what foods work best synergistically together, and what foods work terribly together? That's what we really need to know. How can we balance our plates in the most optimal way? The research team found that green leafy vegetables like spinach and kale appear to have an edge over other vegetables and fruits when it comes to radiation protection. All this time, I've been packing kale chips on flights just because they are so lightweight, but it also turns out they may be protecting my DNA. The same plant-based protection enjoyed by pilots was also found among atomic bomb survivors. For several decades, researchers have followed 36,000 survivors of the nuclear attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those who ate vegetable or fruit-rich diets appeared to cut their cancer risk by about 36%. We saw the same thing in the aftermath of the accident at the Chernobyl nuclear reactor in Ukraine, where, I don't know if I'm spelling that right, by the way, Chernobyl, Chernobyle, where consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables apparently protected children's immune systems, while egg and fish consumption was associated with significantly increased risk of DNA damage. The researchers suggest this results could have been due to the possibility that the animal food they ate were contaminated with radioactive elements or the role of animal fats in free radical formation. Nuclear events offer a rare opportunity to study these effects on humans, since obviously it is unethical to intentionally expose people to radiation. However, as we've learned from declassified documents about U.S. Cold War radiation experiments, this didn't stop our own government from injecting colored people with plutonium or feeding retarded children radioactive isotopes in their breakfast cereal. This shit makes me disgusting, bro. People have so much faith in the government, it disgusts me. Makes me fucking sick. Despite the Pentagon's insistence that these methods were the only feasible means of developing ways to protect people from radiation, researchers have since come up with a few methods that doesn't violate the Nuremberg Code. One is to study human cells in a test tube. Research has found, for example, that white blood cells blasted with gamma rays suffered less DNA damage, when the cells had been pre-treated with phytonutrients from ginger root. That's getting a sticky note. The ginger compounds protected DNA nearly as well as the leading radiation sickness drug at 150 times lower the dose. Those taking ginger in order to prevent motion sickness during air travel may be protecting themselves against more than just nausea. Didn't even know taking ginger could protect you from air sickness. Other common foods that may be protective against radiation damage include garlic, turmeric, goji berries, and mint leaves, but none of these has been tested in clinical studies. That's getting a sticky note. How can we test the protective power of foods in people rather than petri dishes? To study how diet may protect against cosmic rays, airline pilots were studied. Guess who they studied to see if they could be protective against X-rays? X-ray technicians. That's valid. Hospital workers who routinely operate X-ray machines have been found to suffer more chromosomal chromosomal damage and to have higher levels of oxidative stress compared with other hospital workers. For this reason, researchers recruited a group of X-ray techs and asked them to drink 2 cups of lemon balm tea each day for a month. Lemon balm is a herb in the mint family. Even in that short time frame, the lemon balm tea appeared able to boost the level of antioxidant enzymes in the subject's bloodstream, while also reducing the amount of DNA damage they suffered. Interesting. Based on a study of more than... the title of the section is The Actual Benefit of Diet versus Drugs. Based on a study of more than 100,000 Minnesotans, it appears that 7 out of 10 people may be prescribed at least one prescription drug in any given year. More than half are prescribed 2 or more drugs, and 20% are prescribed 5 or more medications. All told, physicians dispense about 4 billion prescriptions for drugs every year in the United States. That's about 13 prescriptions a year for every man, woman, and child. The 2 prescription drugs most often brought up in doctor visits are simvastatin, a cholesterol-lowering medication, and lisinopril, Lisinopril, a blood pressure pill. So a lot of drugs are being doled out in an attempt to prevent disease. But how well are these billions of pills working? An overconfidence in the power of pills and procedures for disease prevention may be one of the 3 reasons doctors and patients alike may undervalue diet and lifestyle interventions. When surveyed, people tend to wildly overestimate the ability of mammograms and colonoscopies to prevent cancer deaths, or the power of drugs like Fosamax to prevent hip fractures, or drugs like Lipitor to prevent fatal heart attacks. Patients believe cholesterol-lowering statin drugs are about 20 times more effective than they actually are in preventing heart attacks. No wonder most people continue to rely on drugs to save them. But the dirty little secret is that most people surveyed said that they wouldn't be willing to take many of these drugs if they knew how little benefit these products actually offered. How ineffectual are some of the most common drugs in America? When it comes to cholesterol, blood pressure, and blood-thinning drugs, the chance of even high-risk patients benefiting from them is typically less than 5% over a period of 5 years. When asked, most patients say they want to be told the truth. However, as doctors, we know that if we divulge this information, few of our patients would agree to take these drugs every day for the rest of their lives, which would be detrimental for the small percentage of people who do truly benefit from them. That's why doctors in the know and drug companies oversell the benefits by conventionally not mentioning how tiny these benefits actually are. When it comes to chronic disease management, practicing conventional medicine can be thought of as practicing deceptive medicine. For the hundreds of millions of people on these drugs who don't benefit, it's not simply a matter of all the money spent and all the side effects endured. To me, the true tragedy is all the lost opportunities to address the root causes of patients' conditions. When people dramatically overestimate how much their prescription pills protect them, they may be less likely to make the dietary changes necessary to dramatically lower their risk. Take cholesterol-lowering statin drugs, for example. The best they may be able to offer in terms of absolute risk reduction for a subsequent heart attack or death is about 3% over 6 years. Meanwhile, a whole food plant-based diet may work 20 times better, potentially offering an absolute risk reduction of 60% after fewer than 4 years. In 2014, Dr. Caldwell Estelstyn, not going to pronounce that, Esselstyn, Esseltyn, oh, I guess I did pronounce it. Dr. Caldwell Esseltyn Jr. published a case series of about 200 people with significant heart disease, showing that a healthy enough plant-based diet may prevent further major cardiac episodes in 99.4% of patients who follow it. That's a lot of patients. And interesting. You don't really have the luxury of choosing between following a healthy diet or taking a pill to prevent a heart attack, because pills may not work in the near term in 97% of the cases. Of course, diet and drugs are not mutually exclusive, and many under Dr. Esseltyn's care wisely continued to take their cardiac meds. You just need to have a realistic understanding of how limited a role the contents of your medicine cabinets play compared to the contents of your refrigerator. Heart disease may continue to be number one killer of men, women, and eventually our children if doctors continue to rely on drugs and stents. However, if you eat a healthy enough diet, you may be able to reverse the stranglehold it has on your heart. That is something doctors can be proud to divulge in our patients. Aspirin. How well do over-the-counter drugs perform? For example, take aspirin. Perhaps the most commonly used medication in the world. It's been around in pill form for over a century. Its active ingredient, salicylic acid, SALICYLIC acid, has been used in its natural form as an extract from a willow tree bark. I thought that was in ibuprofen, not aspirin. Maybe it's in both. Whatever, doesn't matter. To ease pain and fever for thousands of years. One of the reasons it remains so popular, despite the fact that better anti-inflammatory painkillers exist now, is that it's used by millions of people on a daily basis as a blood thinner to reduce the risk of a heart attack. As we saw in Chapter 1, heart attacks often occur when blood clot forms in response to a ruptured atherosclerotic, can't even pronounce that, not going to try it again. Oh wait, yes I am. Atherosclerotic plaque. Atherosclerotic. Talk about a big word. In one of your coronary arteries. Taking aspirin may help stop this from happening. Aspirin may also lower the risk of cancer. It works by suppressing an enzyme within your body that creates pro-clotting factors, thereby thinning your blood. At the same time, aspirin suppresses pro-inflammatory compounds called prostaglandins, prostaglandins, which in turn reduces pain, swelling, and fever. And goddamn, you best already know that page is getting a sticky note. We are on page 246, baby. Prostaglandins may also dilate the lymph vessels inside tumors, potentially allowing cancer cells to spread. One of the ways scientists think aspirin helps prevent cancer deaths is by counteracting a tumor's attempt to pry open the lymphatic bars on its cage and spread throughout the body. So should everyone take a baby, in quotation marks, strength aspirin a day? Note that aspirin should never actually be given to infants and children. Know that the problem is that aspirin can cause side effects The same blood thinning benefit that can prevent a heart attack can also cause a hemorrhage, but it's spelled hemographic. Hemorrhaph, not going to try and say it. HEMORRHAGIC. Hemorrhagic stroke. Stroke. In which you bleed into your brain. God damn these words. Aspirin can also damage the lining of the digestive tract. For those who've already had a heart attack and continue to eat the same diet that led to the first one, and therefore at exceedingly higher risk of having another one, the risk-benefit analysis seems clear. Taking aspirin would probably prevent about 6 times more serious problems than it causes you. But among the general population, keyword general, who have yet to have their first heart attack, the risks and benefits are more closely matched. Thus, taking an aspirin a day is generally not recommended. Throw in even a 10% reduction in cancer mortality, though, and it could tip the risk-benefit balance in favor of aspirin. Given that regular low-dose aspirin use may reduce the risk of cancer mortality by 1/3, it is tempting to recommend it for nearly everyone. If only you could get the benefits without the risks. Well, maybe you can. The willow tree isn't the only plant that contains salicylic acid. It's widely found in many of the fruits and vegetables in the plant kingdom. That's why you often find the active ingredient of aspirin in the bloodstreams of people who aren't taking it. The more fruits and vegetables you eat, the higher level of salicylic acid may rise. In fact, the levels of people eating plant-based diets actually overlap with those of some people taking low-dose aspirin. With all that salicylic acid flowing through their systems, you might think plant eaters would have higher ulcer rates because aspirin is known to chew away at the gut. But those following plant-based diets actually appear to have a significantly lower risk of ulcers. How is that possible? Because in plants, the salicylic acid may come naturally pre-packaged with gut protective nutrients. For example, nitric oxide from dietary nitrates exerts stomach protective effects by boosting blood flow and protective mucus production in the lining of the stomach, effects which demonstrably oppose the pro-ulcerative impact of aspirin. So for the general population, by eating plants instead of taking aspirin, individuals may not only get aspirin benefits without its risks, but also get the benefits with benefits. People who had a heart attack should follow their physician's advice, which probably includes taking aspirin every day. But what about everyone else? I think everyone should take aspirin, but in the form of produce, not a pill. The salicylic acid content in plants may help explain why traditional plant-based diets were so protective. For instance, before their diets were westernized, animal products made up about only 5% of the average Japanese diet. I love how it references Japan constantly. We're going to sticky note that, by the way. During this period in the 1950s, age-adjusted death rates from colon, prostate, breast, and ovarian cancers were 5 to 10 times lower in Japan than in the United States, while incidences of pancreatic cancer, leukemia, and lymphoma were 3 to 4 times lower. This phenomenon was not unique to the Japanese. As we've seen throughout this book, Western rates of cancers and heart disease have been found to dramatically lower among populations whose diets are centered around plant foods. If part of this protection arises from the aspirin phytonutrients, which plants in particular are packed with the stuff, while salicylic acid is ubiquitously present in fruits and vegetables, herbs and spices contain the highest concentrations. This is getting a sticky note, I can already tell. Chili powder, paprika, and turmeric are rich in the compound, but cumin has the most per serving. Indeed, just 1 teaspoon of ground cumin may be about the equivalent of a baby aspirin. This may help explain why India, with the spice-rich diets, has among the lowest worldwide rates of colorectal cancer, the cancer that appears most sensitive to the effects of aspirin. And the spicier, the better. A spicy vegetable, vindaloo, has been circulated to contain... Wow, I like learning new vegetables. I've never even heard of vindaloo. Has been calculated to contain 4 times the salicylic acid content of a milder Madras-style veggie dish. Madras, Madras-style veggie dish. Eat a single meal and you can get the same spike in salicylic acid in your bloodstream as if you took an aspirin. The benefits of salicylic acid are another reason you should strive to choose organic produce, because the plant uses the compound as a defense hormone. Its concentration may be increased when the plant is bitten by bugs. Pesticide-laden plants aren't nibbled as much, and perhaps as a result appear to produce less salicylic acid. For example, in one study, soup made from organic vegetables was found to contain nearly 6 times more salicylic acid than soup prepared for conventional, non-organically grown ingredients. Wow. Plants bitten by bugs causes the plants to have more salicylic acid. That is amazing to know. Amazing. Absolutely, positively, absolutely amazing. But now we have diseases from bugs too. So it's like a yin and the yang. Too much bugs, disease. Not enough bugs, disease. We need bugs or we're gonna have disease. But it's all about balance, as all things in life. Another way to get more salicylic acid bang for your buck is by opting for whole foods. Whole grain breads, for example, not only offer more salicylic acid, but may contain 100 times more phytochemicals in general than white bread, reportedly 800 compared with approximately 8. Attention has been focused on salicylic acid because of the voluminous data on aspirin. But hundreds of other phytonutrients have been found to have anti-inflammatory and antioxidative activity as well. Still, given the strength of the aspirin evidence, there are those in the public health community who talk of a widespread of salicylic acid deficiency, proposing that the compound be classed as an essential vitamin, vitamin S. Whether it is the salicylic acid or a combination of other phytonutrients that account for the benefits of whole plant foods, the solution is the same. Eat more of them. The colonoscopy, you'll be hard-pressed to find a more dreaded routine procedure. Every year, U.S. doctors may perform more than 14 million colonoscopies. That's not fun. An exam used to detect abnormal changes in the large intestine, colon, and rectum. During the procedure, doctors insert a 5-foot-long flexible tube fitted with a tiny video camera and inflate the colon with air to visualize the colon lining. Any suspicious polyps, Polyps, or other abnormal tissue can be biopsied during the procedure. Colonoscopies can help doctors diagnose causes of rectal bleeding or chronic diarrhea. That's gross. But routine colon cancer screenings may be most common reason they are performed. The reasons doctors often find it difficult to convince their patients to keep coming back for colonoscopies include the necessary bowel prep, during which you have to drink quarts of powerful liquid laxative before the procedure to completely clean yourself out. There's also the pain and discomfort of the procedure itself. Though you are purposefully given drugs with amnesic effects so you won't remember how it felt, feelings of embarrassment and vulnerability and the fear of complications. These fears are not unfolded. Despite how routinely colonoscopies are performed, serious complications occur in about 1 of every 350 cases, including such issues as perforations. That's a word I'm annotating. Handy dandy sticky note. perforations. Perforations and fatal bleeding. Perforations can occur when the tip of the colonoscope punctures the wall of the colon. Fuck that shit. When the colon is overinflated, or when the doctor cauterizes a bleeding biopsy site. In extremely rare cases, this cautery can ignite some residual gas and cause the colon to literally... I'm sorry. What? Okay, get it together. Deep breaths. We're just going to reread that sentence. When the colon is overinflated, or when a doctor cauterizes a bleeding biopsy site, in extremely rare cases, the cautery can ignite some residual gas and cause the colon to literally explode. I don't know why I thought that was so funny. I'm just thinking of an exploding colon, and it is hilarious. Not for the people who have an exploding colon, of course. That sounds painful, and I'm sorry for laughing. From the bottom of my heart, genuinely, I'm sorry. Death from colonoscopy is rare, occurring in only 1 in every 2,500 procedures. That's still a lot. Yet this means colonoscopies may be killing thousands of Americans every year, raising the question, do the benefits outweigh the risks? Colonoscopies are not the only screening technique for colon cancer. The U.S. Preventative Service Task Force, USPSTF, the official prevention guidelines body, considers colonoscopies just one of 3 acceptable colon cancer screening strategies. Starting at age 50, everyone should get either a colonoscopy once a decade, have their stool tested for hidden blood every year, which involves no scooping at all, or have a sigmoidoscopy, sigmoidoscopy. I want to say sigmoidoscopy, but there's an O there, so I'm not sure. I'm just going to say sigmoidoscopy every 5 years, along with stool testing every 3. The evidence supporting virtual colonoscopies or DNA stool testing was judged insufficient, though routine screenings are no longer recommended at age 75. This assumes you've been tested negative for 25 years. If you are now 75 and had never been screened, then it's probably a good idea to get screened at least into your 80s. Sigmoidoscopy uses a much smaller scope than a colonoscopy and has 10 times fewer complications. However, because the scope may only go about 2 feet inside your body, it might miss tumors farther inside. So, which is better overall? We won't know until randomized controlled colonoscopy trials are published in the mid-2020s. Most other developed countries do not recommend either scooping procedure, though, for routine colon cancer screening. They still endorse the non-invasive stool blood testing. Which of the 3 options is best for you? The USPSTF recommends that the decision should be made on an individualized basis after weighing the benefits and risks with your doctor. To what extent, though, do doctors inform patients of their options? Researchers audio taped clinic visits to find out. They were looked for the 9 essential elements of informed decision making, which include explaining the pros and cons of each option, describing the alternatives, and making sure the patient understands these options. Let's annotate that. Unfortunately, when it came to colon cancer screening, in most cases, the doctors and nurses practitioners studied communicated none of these vital information. Damn. 0 out of 9 elements. As an editorial in the Journal of the American Medical Association put it, there are too many probabilities and uncertainties for patients to consider, and too little time for clinicians to discuss them with patients. So doctors tend to just make up patients' mind for them. What do they choose? A National Cancer Institute-funded survey of more than 1,000 physicians found that nearly all doctors, 94.8%, recommended a colonoscopy. Why do doctors push colonoscopies in the United States when most of the rest of the world appears to prefer non-invasive alternatives? It may be because most doctors in the rest of the world don't get paid by procedure. As the U.S. gastroenterologist put it, colonoscopy is the goose that has laid the golden egg. An exposure in the New York Times on spiraling healthcare costs noted that in many other developed countries, colonoscopies cost just a few $100s. In the United States, the procedure may cost thousands, which the journalist concluded has less to do with providing top-notch medical care and more with business plans aimed at maximizing revenue, marketing, and lobbying. Who's in charge of setting the prices? The American Medical Association. A Washington Post investigation exposed that each year a secretive AMA committee determines billing standards for common procedures. The result is gross overestimates for the time it takes to perform common services like colonoscopies. As the Post pointed out, if AMA standards are to be believed, some doctors would have to work more than 25 hours a day to perform all the procedures they report to Medicare and private insurers. Is it any wonder that gastroenterologists bank nearly $500,000 per year? But why would your family doctor internist push for the procedure if they're not the ones doing it? Many doctors who refer their patients to gastroenterologists receive what are essentially financial kickbacks. The U.S. Government Accountability Office, GAO, reported on this practice of so-called self-referrals, a scheme where providers refer patients to entities in which they have a financial interest. The GAO estimated that doctors make nearly 1 million more referrals every year than they would have if they were not personally profiting. And that is getting a big fucking sticky note. I already knew some of this information to a certain extent, but seeing it in a book with the ethos of this caliber definitely makes you think about it twice, to say the least. What to take before colonoscopy? Ever pooped one of those breath mints after a big meal at a restaurant? Peppermint doesn't just make your breath smell better, it also helps to reduce the gastrocolic reflex, the urge to defecate following a meal. Nerves in your stomach stretch after eating, which triggers spasms in the colon to enable your body to make room for more food coming down the pike. Peppermint can reduce these spasms by relaxing the muscles that line in your colon. What does this have to do with colonoscopies? If you take circular strips of human colons removed during surgery and lay them on a table, they spontaneously contract about 3 times per minute. Isn't that kind of creepy? But if you drip menthol found in peppermint onto the colon strips, the strength of the contractions diminish significantly. During colonoscopy, such spasms can hinder the progress of the scope and cause the patient discomfort. By relaxing the colon muscles, peppermint can make the procedure easier for both doctor and patient. Doctors have experimented with spraying peppermint oil from the tip of the colonoscope, as well as hand pump to flood the colon with a peppermint solution prior to the procedure. The simplest solution might be the best, though asking the patient to swallow peppermint oil capsules pre-medicating with 8 drops worth of peppermint essential oil for hours before a colonoscopy was found to significantly reduce colon spasms, patient pain, and make their scope easier to insert with withdrawal compared with a placebo. If you do need a colonoscopy, ask your doctor about using the simple plant remedy. It might make it easier on the both of you. Clearly, patients in America may be getting more medical care than they really need. So said Dr. Barbara Starfield, who literally wrote the book on primary care. One of our nation's most prestigious physicians, she composed the scathing commentary in the Journal of American Medical Association naming medical care as the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States. Her primary care work has been widely embraced, but her findings on the potential ineffective and even harmful nature of U.S. healthcare received almost no attention. The American public appears to have been hoodwinked into believing that more interventions lead to better health. She later said in an interview, as one healthcare quality advisor noted, the widespread disregard of Dr. Starfield's evidence recalls that dark dystopia of George Orwell's 1984, where awkward facts swallowed up by the memory hole becomes as if they had never existed at all. Sadly, Dr. Starfield is no longer with us. Ironically, she may have died from one of her adverse drug reactions. She's so vociferously warned us about. Vociferously? VOCIFERSROUSLY. Yes, that is getting a sticky note. After she was placed on 2 blood thinners to prevent a stent in her heart from clogging up, she told her cardiologist she was bruising more and bleeding longer. That's the drug risk you hope doesn't outweigh the benefits. Then, Dr. Starfield died after apparently hitting her head while swimming and bleeding into her brain. That's sad. That's a really sad way to die. The question I ask myself is not whether she should have been put on 2 blood thinners for as long as she was, or whether she should have been on the stent inserted to begin with. Rather, I wonder if she could have avoided the medication and the surgery both, by avoiding the heart disease in the first place. Heart attacks are considered 96% avoidable in women who eat a wholesome diet and engage in other healthy lifestyle behaviors. The number 1 killer of women need almost never happen. The number 1 killer of women need almost never happen. Okay, need almost never happen. I wish you put a comma right after women. Of women, need almost never happen. There we are, boys. Look at that ski bob skis. I feel like I just read a book. Like, part 1 is done. Part 2, it's gonna be fun. Let's go! Thank you all for enjoying and listening to me reading How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. This has been part 5. Part 5. Plus 10. This has been part 15. How Not to Die from Iatrogenic Causes, aka How Not to Die from Doctors. The next chapter will be an introduction, and we will be reading the introduction tomorrow. There looks like there's some cool little charts in there, so we'll be looking at that. And after the introduction, it looks like it's only... Oh, it's actually a big introduction. This is going to be an interesting introduction. This is like a whole other book. And then we got Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. Beans, berries, other fruits, cruciferous vegetables, greens, other vegetables, flax seeds, nuts, spices, whole grains, beverages, exercise. What a beautiful, 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 beautiful book. How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. This is it, guys. This is it. I read a chapter yesterday. I read a chapter today. We are going to try and read a chapter tomorrow. Yeah. Hopefully. So if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you're watching this on my Instagram live, I highly suggest you checking out my YouTube. I do stream this on YouTube. And my Instagram kind of buffers in and out. Kind of lags a little bit more than my YouTube does. So any parts that you might not have picked up because it was lagging will be picked up via my YouTube channel. And show some support on the YouTube side of things. Leave a like, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. We're trying to save the world one book at a time, guys. So that should be a t-shirt. I'm going to make that a t-shirt. And yeah, we're working on a lot of things on our channel. Merch lines. Productive things. A lot of good things coming in the future. A lot of good books. Got a whole shelf of books right here I'm going to be reading. So almost done this book. Hopefully we'll be done before the end of September. Or December, I should say. Should know what month it is. Goddamn. And I'm going to jump into another book right after this. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. That's it for me. And if I had one thing to leave you guys with, if I died right now, and the last thing I would want to tell you guys is it would be to believe in yourself. If you only do anything in your life, if you do anything at all, believe in yourself. The only thing you ever need to believe in is yourself. And as long as you believe in yourself, there's always a chance. But the second you stop believing in yourself, there is no chance. So believe in yourself because you are worth believing in. Your potential, worth, and value is infinite, limitless, beyond measure. So, with that being said, guys, as always, much love. Love is all you need. It literally is all you need. Every problem you ever have, every question you ever have, guess what the answer is? The answer is love. 1 + 1, guess what it is? Not 2, baby. It's love. I'm a genius. I know. What can I say? Nonetheless, love yourself, believe in yourself, keep your head up, stay positive. We out here killing it. We ain't dead yet. What do we say to death? Not today. Only good thing I took away from Game of Thrones. Nonetheless, we out of here, guys. Peace, much love, much love, much love, 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 love. That's the answer. That's all you need. Said it all before again. I said it all before, and I'll say it all again. I'm getting tired, guys. Too much love is the only thing you can have too much of, and it still not be bad for you. That's it, guys. I'm out of here. Peace. Yeah.
To myself, I've seen something that is floating across that edge. Is it possible that God has been with me? The whole time on this broken set. Just wanna be heard above the water, breathing in the wind. Just wanna start again. Should have started with